Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ba'd. So we're still on we're on the element of memorization. So the third element, memorization, we're on page 77, and the question is, how often should I revise? All right, the answer to this question depends on the person and what was memorized. For example, if the question is referring to the Quran, I would say that you should at least read the entire Quran once a week after you have memorized it. It was narrated that Imam Ahmed used to complete the reading of the entire Mus'haf every Friday. If a person is capable of reading 5 parts every day, that is ideal. If not, he should complete the entire Mus'haf once a week. If you're really busy, complete it every 10 days by reading 3 parts every day. Anything above 10 days is going to cause you to begin forgetting what you memorized. And the best day, one of the best days, one of the things that always makes me happy is because I wrote this book, and then maybe like 2 weeks ago, Sheikh Yahya was asked the same question. Like, how often should a person revise the Quran? And guess what he said? No, he said exactly the same thing. He said he said 10 days is that's it. Anything above 10 days, you're going to start forgetting it. He said 10 days or less. 10 days or less. And Sheikh Yahya used to read 5 juz every day at one point, but then he got busy, and then with the wars and all the stuff that was going on. But he used to sit in the masjid and just revise every day, 5 ajza. So, all right, anything above 10 days is going to cause you to begin forgetting what you memorized. The same thing, and the same goes for anything else you have memorized. If you have memorized Bulugh al-Maram, you want to read the entire book at least every 10 days. However, it is most ideal to finish reading Bulugh al-Maram once a week. You can read Bulugh al-Maram around 50 minutes a day and finish it in 1 week. If you read 1 hour a day, you can finish it in 6 days. If you have memorized Alfiyat ibn Malik, it should be easy for you to review it. You review it every 5 days. But you got to keep in mind, now you memorize Quran, you memorize Bulugh al-Maram, you memorize Alfiyah, you memorize other matun. Now you have to have a matan in Usul al-Fiqh. How much time is going to be spent every single day? So if you revise Alfiyat ibn Malik, all right, let's say that you memorize Alfiyah. You got to read 200 lines every single day to finish it every 5 days. All right, 200 lines a day is going to take about 17 minutes. All right, 17 minutes. Now you memorize Bulugh al-Maram. You want to finish that like every 6 days, right? So every 6 days, or let's say once a week, 50 minutes a day. So 50 minutes a day, now we got 17 minutes, so now we're at 67 minutes. Now you want to memorize, now you've memorized the Quran too, so you want to finish that, let's say every week. Every week you have to read four and a quarter, or like, let me see. You have to read a little over 4 juz every day, right? Or what you can do is just read like 4 juz in like what 4 pages a day or something like that, right? How much? No, you need to do more than 3 or 4 pages. But it's a little over 4 juz a day, right? Let's say 4 and a quarter, just for the sake of it, right? So now that's going to take you about how long each day?
If you're going out at like normal pace, like 2 hours.
All right, so that's now 120 minutes. 120 minutes, 137 minutes, 187 minutes. That's 187 minutes right there. That's 3 hours right now, right? You haven't even added Usul al-Fiqh. You haven't added Mustalah Hadith. You haven't. So you see where it is, So it's going to be a lot of work, to keep all that stuff. And that's why I'm telling the people, don't sit here and try to memorize every single metin. Because you memorize what you can keep. We're not just memorizing for the sake of memorizing. You memorize for the sake of what? Knowledge that you need. You understand? So, like a lot of the people I've seen, and I was one of those people, memorize Nawaqid al-Islam, memorize Qawaid al-Arba, memorize Rasul al-Thalatha, memorize Kitab al-Tawheed. Come on, what do you need? What do you need? You need Kitab al-Tawheed. Khalas. So what do you need to really memorize? Kitab al-Tawheed. All the other books, you study them, you're familiar with them. I would say if you want to memorize another one, al-Rasul al-Thalatha, but that's enough. That's enough. How much do you need? If you, so most all of the ilm of Tawheed is taken from evidence, taken from the Quran and the Sunnah. If you memorize the Quran, then you have all the evidence from the Quran memorized. You just need to know how to use that evidence when you're dealing with those issues, right? And then you have the Hadith. You can go through all the different classes and just take all the ahadith that you need for Tawheed, write them in a notebook and memorize that. Memorize the notebook. It's probably, I would say, like around 120 ahadith that you'll see all throughout all the lessons of Tawheed. Now, we're not talking about Aqidah. Now, Aqidah, you're probably going to need about...
Safe.
No, safe states. Somebody else. When we're teaching the class, my son doesn't need it. All right, so you take the book that you're going to need. You know, you take the book that's sufficient. All right, if you have a strong understanding of like Mustalah Hadith, you don't need to memorize Alfiyat al-Iraqi. It's enough to memorize, Nukhbat al-Fikr, al-Hafidh ibn Hajar, which is easy. It's like you can read the whole book in like 12 minutes. Memorize that, read through the books of Mustalah Hadith and get an understanding of it. Khalas, that's it. You don't need to sit down with another Alfiyah. But this is the thing, though. A lot of people, they spend so much time on the memorization of the matun. So that's why you go to like Sardiya, you see all these guys, they memorize all these matun. They're like, what books of hadith have you memorized? Like, you know, he can read back the matan to you word for word, but he can't do the same thing for Bulugh al-Maram, Umdat al-Ahkam, or anything like that. The energy, it needs to be, you need to focus that energy on the most important things. The most important thing is the Quran and the Sunnah. Everything else, you just get exactly what you need and you go on about your business. You don't need to memorize everything, you know. So, all right, the same goes for anything else you have memorized. If I did that. If you have memorized Alfiyat ibn Malik, it should be easy for you to review it every 5 days. You can read around 20 minutes every day for 5 days and finish Alfiyat every 5 days. Same goes for any of the Alfiyat, such as Alfiyat al-Suyuti in the science of Hadith, or Alfiyat al-Iraqi in the science of Hadith, or the one in Sirah. Whatever it is that you are reviewing, you should try your best to review it once a week at least. I prefer every 5 days, but sometimes that is not possible, especially if the book is big and time is restricted. As far as reviewing your lessons and books you have studied, the best way to review lessons is to teach the subject. If you studied a Nahu, and you have memorized one of the bigger methods in the science of Nahu, you should begin teaching Nahu. That is the easiest way to retain the information. In fact, by teaching the science, you will notice that you get stronger in your understanding of the books you teach, because you have to focus more. Because when you're reading, you're only trying to answer your questions, right? You're trying to get your understanding. But when you're teaching, you have to look at the book and say, what are they going to ask me? And then you start to focus on every single word. You start to focus on every word. And it's a lot more difficult and a lot more time consuming, you know, to teach something than it is to study something. All right, because you study something, you just memorize what you think, what you need. But when you have to teach, now it's a big difference, especially when you know that you're going to have students that are going to be asking a lot of questions. That is the easiest way to retain the information. In fact, by teaching the science, you will notice that you get stronger in your understanding of the books you teach. When you study a book, you overlook a lot of intricate details in the book. However, when you teach a book, you have to focus on every detail of the book to prepare for any questions that students might have. To conclude this section, you have to memorize, because without memorization, you will not have the knowledge whenever you need it. You have to revise what you memorize constantly to retain what you memorize. If you do not revise after you memorize something, you end up wasting your time. You waste your time because you forget it and lose it, and what was the point of memorizing it in the first place? You know, so again, you memorize the things that you plan to keep. All right, you spend so much time to memorize a book just to be lazy about revising the book, and you end up forgetting it. More emphasis should be placed on keeping what you memorize. People get all hyped up to memorize something, but they do not have the same energy to keep what they memorize. Make a schedule for revision and stick to it just like you followed your schedule for memorization. And that's why I always tell the people, as you're memorizing something, what? Constantly read it. If you're memorizing Alfiyat ibn Malik, then read it every 5 days. Start reading it like now. And then as you're memorizing it, you already got the reading schedule, what? It's already going. Now once you finish memorizing, what do you have to do? Just keep the schedule going. Keep it going. Because trust me, I know from experience, when you get derailed, boy, it's no joke to get a train back on the tracks, akhi. You know, when you have that type of passion and motivation, and then something derails you, akhi, it is very, very difficult to get that train back on the tracks and get going again. Because Shaitan is like, I got him now. I got him. When he sees that you're derailed, he's going to do everything just to keep you procrastinating, because now that's what he's been waiting for the whole time, is for you to get like knocked off your game. So if that does happen, you got to get back like it's ASAP. You know, if you start to lose that, then it's over. It's over. It is very hard to get back. It's very, very hard to get back on track. And, it's going to take, the amount of work that it took you to get, to memorize it and to get it in the first place, it's going to take you 3 times the amount of effort to get it back on track if you lost it. That's no joke, Akhi. Because it takes a lot of discipline now to go back and rememorize something that you had memorized. It was like, you had it down. You memorize it, and now you have to go back and do it again. That's painful, man. And it's not easy. So, get in the habit while you're memorizing something of just reading it over and over and over, and just keep it going. And just keep it going, and don't stop. And if something does derail you for some reason, or something comes up, and you get kind of like sidetracked for a minute, you get right back on track. Don't allow Shaitan to come and play games with you. Because that's so many brothers that got knocked off the rails, and that's it. They never got back on. They never got back on. They come back to America, they go back to Britain, and they just start working in just regular jobs, and that's it. His life as a talib al-ilm is just a memory. Allah musta'an. Wa ilahana subhanaka wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.